On the last show, I had some experts in that talked about getting your affairs in order, or what are your final wishes? And they were experts from the funeral home business. Well, there were several questions that came about, and I promise to bring them back to answer your questions. But until then, we're going to move on to the next section of the workbook, your personal information. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Kimberly Ivory Graves, your HELP Holistic Elite Legacy Planner. I'm so happy that you are tuning in to the Living Peace and Order show, where we share tips to a life of love and peace through Jesus Christ and steps to getting your affairs in order. Why don't you do me a favor? You know the drill. Hit that like button, hit the share, add some comments. If you're on YouTube, make sure if you haven't subscribed, hit that notification button. Also leave me comments. Let your family and friends know that the Living Peace and Order show is on the air. Thank you so very much. Well, before we get started, our scripture for the week is found in Romans 12:18, and it reads, "If it be possible, as much as life in you, live peaceably with all men." And we're going to be talking about this scripture in depth this Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time on Clubhouse. So I encourage you to join us. For more information, you can click down on the link below and find out more about the Clubhouse show. And also the replays are on my website. So please join us this Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, where we will talk about Romans 12:18. All righty. Well, our topic today is your personal information. And as I said last time, the last two shows, I committed to walking through the workbook. I'm the author of Leaving Peace in Order, which is a step-by-step guide to getting your affairs in order. I talk about gathering, recording, and storing your pertinent information. And I created a workbook to go with the book. And it comes in two sizes. So this is a mini, that was a regular, and then I also have it on flash drive. And so I promised to walk through the workbook. For those of you who have my workbook and you just have it sitting there on the shelf, this is the opportunity to grab your workbook and complete the various sections within the workbook. So I'm going to walk through the sections. I've walked through the first section, which is what are your final wishes? And we talked about what type of end of life arrangements you want to have, whether you want to have a funeral, whether you want to have a memorial, whether you want to be buried or cremated or the likes, whether you want to plan your whole service out or you don't want to service at all. We covered that section. And as I stated, we brought in experts from the funeral home business who talked about the different things that you need to have, materials and documents that you need to have when going to a funeral home. And as they were talking, they basically were describing the information that's in my workbook, the information that I'm encouraging you to gather, to record, and to store, and also in creating your binders so that your family members are not scrambling trying to find this information. And they also talked about pre-planned policy and all of that. So I'm going to bring them back on next time and have them go in a little bit more depth on the pre-planned policy and answer a few of the questions that came about. But like I said, we're going to continue in the workbook, and the next section in the workbook is your personal information. And in this section of your personal information, and I'm going to grab the book and the workbook just so that we don't miss any of the topics here. So in your personal information, you're basically going to gather all of your personal documents, and this is your your social security card, your driver's license, your passport, any forms of ID. You're going to grab those documents and you're going to write this information in your workbook. Starting off, first of all, with your names. If you've had several different names by marriage or you changed your name, make sure that you start off with your given name, then your name, your address, of course, and all of your phone numbers, all of your contact information about you, your mobile phone, your emails. I know that I have several email addresses, so I really need to update my workbook and add all of those email addresses along with the passwords, your home address, your date of birth. This is very, very important because as they stated on the previous show, that you need this, your family members need this information when they go in. They need to know your name. They need to know your given name. They need to know your birth date. They need to know your social security number. If you have a state ID, all of this information is vitally important when your family members are going and acting on your behalf. But not only having this organized and in order for your family, you need to have this information organized and in order, even for yourself or personally. I heard someone share how they were about to travel and they needed their passport, and they were in the midst of packing and they had packed their passport away and they didn't have it. They weren't sure where it was. And they knew that when they packed it, it was originally in a nightstand, and all of that transpired as it relates to the passport. And eventually, she prayed and the Lord led her to the storage area, and it was found, her passport was found in a bag right in the front of all the boxes and stuff that were in her storage area. And someone sent a note to me, it was like, that basically said, is she not following your plan of having everything organized and in one place? And I just kind of chuckled because it is important to have those kind of documents, your passports, your driver, well, not your driver's license, but any kind of IDs, social security card, have them. And if you have children, make sure that their birth certificates, all of these documents need to be in a safe place. And in my book, I talk about making sure that you put this information in a binder, create a binder, get some sleeves, and just put those particular items in the sleeves, in the binder, as well as filling out the workbook. So you're going to fill out all of this information, all of your identification information. There's a section where you document your marital status. Make sure you put that information down. Even if you divorce, make sure you document names and statuses and all of that, whether they're deceased, whether they're alive. Make sure you record this information because this type of information may come up, for various reasons. You may be entitled to monies that are associated to spouses or what have you. So make sure that this information is documented. Your spouse's information is documented, former spouse information. Also document your education. Make sure that you put down the education. This is good for when, if people have to create your obituary, they have this information listed and in order. If you have higher forms of education, grade school, high school, college, universities, any type of certificates or trade. And again, this information is good to have in order and in place, not only after you pass, but this information is really vitally important while you're alive, because you may need this information while you're alive, and you need to be able to access it right away. You may be applying for another job and need to know this information. And because you have it organized and stored and gathered, recorded in the right place, you can go right to your binder and pull this information out. So the Leaving Peace in Order binder and workbook is not just for when you pass away. And I can't stress that enough, but it is for you to have your information organized and stored in the right place. Family members don't have to go looking for this information because you've done it. In my book, I talk about the binder. And this is where you're actually putting the information. Now, the workbooks are what you actually record your information, but the binder is where you're going to store the information. So make sure that you get your binder. I had like I talk about my mom's binder and how when we were at the funeral home and they were trying to find her plot information, I asked Douglas to go to the car and get my mom's binder. And as I went through the binder, I actually was able to go to the section in the binder where I had stored her information about her burial plot. So of course, you're going to complete the workbook information, but you're also going to build your binder and put this information in. So this is that personal information section. Again, we're going to gather, restore, and record documents like your information from your birth certificate. You're going to store your social security card, your passport, your visa, your green card, driver's license information, state identification, marriage license, divorce documents, and any other documents which pertain to your personal information. This is the information that you need to gather, record, and store. And it's important that you make sure that you document your legal name or your aliases, former names. Oh my gosh, all of this information goes into your personal information. And I remember talking about this previously, and I encourage you, if you don't have a passport, you may say, I'm not going anywhere, but it's also good to have a passport as another form of identification. You never know whether you may be blessed with a trip abroad and you need your passport. So I encourage you to go to the post office, get the proper documents and complete those documents and go ahead and put in for your passport so that you have that information. You never know whether the Lord's going to send you on the mission field. So you need to have your passport. But I just want to encourage you as we walk through the Leaving Peace and Order workbook. If you haven't gotten my workbook, make sure, or my book, make sure you get the book because the book actually explains everything pertaining to the workbook. Make sure you click on the link below, go to my website, HelpMeKimberly.com, and why don't you place your order today for the book and the workbook so that you can walk through with me and complete your sections. The next section that we're going to cover next time is your family history. And that's important. Again, when I was talking to the experts from the funeral home, they were talking about the importance of having your mother's name, full name, your mother's information, maiden name, and all of that. So this information is vitally important, and I can't stress it enough. I probably sound redundant as I'm going over this, but it is so important. It is so important that you have your affairs in order. I'm going to stop right there, and I want to thank you. Thank you again for being a part of the Living Peace and Order show family. I thank you for taking the time to listen. I thank you for taking the time to share. I'm just encouraged by the likes, the love, and all of that. But please share with someone else. You know, family members who need to get their affairs in order, who don't have their stuff organized. Come on, share this information with them, pass this information on to them so that they can get their affairs in order and they will leave peace and order for their loved ones if something happens to them. God bless you. Thank you again. This is Kimberly Ivory Graves of the Living Peace and Order show, talking about leaving peace and order for your family. Thank you for joining me, and I love you with the love of Jesus. Have an amazing night, day, afternoon, whatever time you're viewing this video. Bye-bye.